It's why we offer our members better rates and give back to the places we call home. ViStar Credit Union. Visit vistarcu.org/join. Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
North Florida TPO, proud sponsor of WJCT's First Coast Connect, bringing to the community innovation in transportation planning, commuter services, clean fuels, and intelligent transportation systems. More at northfloridatpo.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. Ahead in the next 5 minutes, live local news for the First Coast from the WJCT News team.
Good morning. It's a minute after 9 o'clock. This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody has filed a lawsuit against electronic cigarette company Juul Labs, alleging that it improperly marketed to children. Margie Menzel has details.
Moody's office filed the lawsuit in Hillsborough County Circuit Court, seeking civil penalties and an injunction to prevent Juul from, quote, targeting children through their marketing and product design. Moody's office also alleges Juul offered misleading information about nicotine content in its products. But Juul responded by saying Moody had decided against participating in a settlement between the company and 48 states and territories. Juul also pointed to multiple steps the company has taken that it claims have seen underage use of Juul products cut by 95%. I'm Margie Menzel.
Mag's Cafe in downtown Jacksonville on Laura Street is closing after 3 years in business, according to the Jacksonville Daily Record. Current owner Bobby Reynolds says on top of issues with the homeless population, there just isn't enough downtown to bring in customers. And even events like Art Walk tend to benefit food trucks over neighborhood businesses. Also from the Jacksonville Daily Record, Regency Square Mall's owners announced they're selling Arlington's old indoor shopping center as the city has issued new code compliance citations. These follow at least 5 other citations since last November, including roof leaks and a damaged ceiling. Our temperature forecast for this afternoon: highs in the mid to upper 80s today. Right now it's in the mid 70s. Mostly cloudy and windy at the beach. Tonight's low temperature 69 degrees. Saturday night's low temperature will be in the upper 50s.
This is WJCT News 89.9 in Jacksonville. Opinions expressed on the Friday Media Roundtable are those of our panelists and do not necessarily reflect the views of WJCT News.
And good morning. The weekend is thankfully upon us. I'm Dan Scanlon, and you're listening to First Coast Connect. It's Friday, which means it's time for our Media Roundtable. And some of the items on our menu today, pretty tasty ones and pretty scary ones. JSO's arrest of 24-year-old Lakean Woods last week and the firestorm that occurred after it on social media. The sale of Regency Square Mall, which some of us in this room remember extremely well. An uptick in evictions over the last 2 years. We'll have an expert to discuss a series that we're doing here at WJCT, and the ousting of House Speaker McCarthy. And there's a Florida connection there. And then later, curated noise from the First Coast and beyond. JME is here with songs you should listen to. It's a full show, so let's get to it. Well, joining me today is a really great cast of experts. Kazmira Harrison, a Jacksonville Today reporter. Good morning.
Good morning, Dan.
I am really chuffed, as the Brits would say, to have an old acquaintance of mine and a new city council member and former First Coast News reporter, Ken Amaro. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning.
Randy DeFore, who's a regular contributor, former city council member. We were chatting last night at a Jacksonville Historical Society event. Great to have you back.
Thank you, Dan. It's great to be back.
And then A.G. Gankarski, reporter at Florida Politics, will join us shortly. So listen live on the radio. Watch our video stream right now on Facebook and the WJCT YouTube page. You can tweet us at FCC On Air, email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org, or, of course, message us on the First Coast Connect Facebook page. Also, make sure you check out our new Instagram page, FCC, at FCC On Air. But first, just exactly 7 days ago, a 24-year-old man was arrested on the south side by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office drug enforcement team. 24-year-old Lakean Woods Two people in a car near the arrest scene caught the tail end of the arrest, and some rather dramatic things that did occur, and it went viral on social media all weekend. And then the sheriff had his own news conference on Monday to release one of the body cams of the arrest and said that everything was done according to what the sheriff's office says, and then also said that some of the cell phone video may have been altered digitally somewhere along the line. But the Woods family then held a news conference on Tuesday in front of the sheriff's office, and their attorney, who has also been involved in some other police items here in the city, said they're calling for the DOJ to investigate. They'll be sending a letter, and the final words literally were that we want to have the DOJ and FBI come in and arrest police. So, again, we've seen now the sheriff's office has also released subsequently an edited version of all the body cam from the officers involved. So we have a lot of this. And then, of course, most telling, the mugshot, I hate to say that, the arrest photo of Mr. Woods showing some severely swollen eyes, some bruising on the face, and his attorney, Mr. Daniels, indicating that he is still in severe pain, cannot really eat, and also said there was some internal injury. So let's talk about this. Who wants to jump in on this? I covered it, but let's just talk about, again, the image of Jacksonville out there, as in many other cities, of police and how suspects are handled.
You know, Dan, there's a lot of conversation about this within the community as to whether law enforcement was being excessive or not, if they followed the proper protocols in making the arrest. And I think at this point, it doesn't matter. At this point, I don't think anyone's opinion is going to be changed regardless of the facts, unfortunately. And we're in a generation of consumer journalism where we're all carrying cell phones, and we're documenting things. And sometimes those videos, while they may be revealing, they may not be the full context of anything. As a former journalist, we've used some of those videos in storytelling, and we've always asked ourselves, you know, what's the context of the video? Is this telling it all? But sometimes they're so dramatic that we're a society where visual images are stimulating. They create conversations, discourse. And so as to the facts, I can tell you this, that from what little knowledge that I have of what transpired, there were 3 individuals in the vehicle. 2 of them responded and surrendered to law enforcement, apparently without incident. And what completely transpired with the 3rd person, I don't know, but something happened.
Well, the video does show, very simply, the body cam video does show that there's a weapon in the pocket of one of the other 2 people that is carefully taken out by police. It shows that Mr. Woods did start running. A taser was fired. It didn't work. Second taser use, and he went down. There is a freeze frame of that video that shows a very bloody chin. So the police are claiming that some of the injuries came when Mr. Woods fell on his face. There is some definite physical force being used against him. He does appear to be resisting, and at a certain point, he's handcuffed. And again, we've seen bits and pieces of that body cam video. We've seen what the person who apparently is just down the street from the arrest scene. So that's what the recordings reveal. Ultimately, when all 3, maybe 4, because who knows how many other officers might have caught it, are released, we see the full story. We've seen a better story now with the combination of the viral video and what the sheriff's office has released. But I've covered this for years.
Yes,
I've covered this for decades. You covered this for decades, long before body cams, and now we have them. I don't know. Randy?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Ken stated. In this day and age, when anyone can pull out their own recorder, their phone, there's just no substitute for transparency. So, and this sheriff stands by that. He has said on the record he is all for transparency. So I think the right thing to do would be not to publish an edited version, but to publish the entire version. And that would put everything to rest.
Well, Susan from Twitter asked, was the truck stopped for a seatbelt violation? If yes, is that probable cause to ask the driver and passengers to get out of the car? How do you feel about the seatbelt law? Well, again, if you read the police report, which is an 8-page report, the officers were observing a transaction occurring between people in two trucks, and then this one Dodge Ram pulls away and they follow it, and then they note the driver is not wearing a seatbelt. That is the official legal context to pull over a vehicle. But the drug task force had been observing some things, had been hearing some conversation. Hey, I'm doing business here, and had seen someone counting money. So I present that as exactly
and
coming out of the police
reports. That's the backstory from the police's perspective, that they were actually witnessing drug activity, drug transaction, and they were following up on that, which led to the stop. And I don't know, I guess the seatbelt further justified.
And a seatbelt violation is often used by police to legally, under the laws, the statutes, to pull a vehicle over. In this case, the police report does state that there was observance by the task force, and one of the detectives even recognized Mr. Woods, which would imply some previous knowledge. There's some interesting parts of that police report. I don't have it in front of me. I would urge everyone to try to find a copy of it and read it. It is interesting as to police procedure, and the fact that Mr. Woods, it does state in the report, was hit in the face, was hit in the ribs, and the family's attorney stating on Tuesday that there were some definite injuries from that. And I'll go no further on opinion on that. I'm stating the facts. I wrote the stories. Casimira, you've been in the newsroom hearing us talk about this.
Yeah. My only question is, what else could those police have done as far as de-escalating the situation? But he appears to be resisting.
So he's right now under,
even with all of the video and everything, it's hard to tell what really happened. And but that mugshot, it's really hard to get past that visual of him after it.
And if you watch the videos, some of the body cam videos, you can catch glimpses of his face, and the eyes are already, in my, at least what I think I saw, already showing some signs of being swollen. So did that occur when he fell face first after the second taser? I don't know. TK Waters also addressed the issue October 2nd, claiming that a doctored version of the video came out and that disinformation was placing the safety of the community in jeopardy. Again, Attorney Daniel said the video that the family attorney put out on Saturday and Sunday, this viral video, was shown in its entirety and not doctored.
It doesn't appear to be altered to me, to be honest.
And again, I can't offer the opinion. I watched the sheriff's news conference virtually. I only caught a little bit of it, and the claim was the video of a kick was not a kick. It was reversed, and that the officer's leg was stretching or whatever.
Do you remember Rodney King?
Extremely well.
I remember sitting in the newsroom when that video was released, and it just seemed like, oh my God, they're trying to kill the guy. And then during the legal proceeding, you saw how it was, the video was just ripped apart as to exactly what were you seeing. And every time Mr. King would move, they would use force, and the justification was resisting arrest. And so we've seen this pattern over and over. And when was Rodney King? In the 90s or something?
Mm-hmm.
And over and over. And the more videos that the community capture of these things, there will always be a question as to what is enough. When is it too much? The person is in handcuffs. And those from the chair of the observer, you will ask those questions. From being engaged in what's taking place, that's a whole different set of dynamics.
Yeah.
Until the person is, I guess, no longer resisting. I don't know. This is not a George Floyd situation where it was very, very evident that Mr. Floyd was not resisting. He was in danger of losing his life, and yet they continued to exert force upon him until he actually lost his life.
Yeah, there was interaction. There was interaction in this case between police and Mr. Woods.
Not two of the same thing. So.
There was something in one of the stories that I read where it said he was trying to, in this scenario, he was trying to reach, one of the officers saw, he was trying to reach for a waistband, and that in a situation as volatile as that, I mean, I can kind of understand.
Well, the report did indicate that they saw something bulging in
fear.
his pocket when he came out of
Yeah.
the truck that implied a weapon. Of course, the weapon may have been transferred to someone else while inside the truck. But again, you're right. A police officer doesn't know what's underneath a person, and if they keep on reaching, a concern.
Yeah.
I think his attorney is doing the right call in asking for a third party to actually come in and review the facts.
And actually,
Yes.
you bring up a good point. Scott from Facebook says, right or wrong, JSO shouldn't be grading its own report card. And that's been a call from the community for years. JSO is one of a handful of agencies in the state that does its own internal investigations. If you've ever heard of any incidents like recently in Nassau County, Sheriff Leeper says, I'm going to give you a statement, and now FDLE is handling this, and we don't talk about it ever again. Same in St. John's, same in Clay. It's handled. They talk about it briefly or not at all, and then it goes, and then we wait for the FDLE and the state to handle it. In this case, JSO does its own internal investigation into whether the officer or officers violated internal policies, and the state attorney's office does a separate criminal investigation with their results coming out, and that is posted on their web pages. So we have on the Sheriff's Transparency, we will see ultimately there'll be a JSO decision, and there will be a state attorney's office decision. Others say the sheriff's office should not police its own.
That's a paradigm they've used for the last 40 years, and I don't know if it's ever going to change, but I do believe our new sheriff, T.K. Waters, is committed to being transparent. I think this is the first time you and I, as reporters, have seen where there's actually a transparency page that the community can have access to.
Mm-hmm.
And he has thus far in his short tenure has demonstrated to me that he's tried to be as above board as possible and upfront in dealing with whatever challenges that pose to the department.
Hey, we want your comment, guys, and so please tweet us at FCC on air. Email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org, or as some folks have been doing this morning, give us a yell on the First Coast Connect Facebook page. I've known TK Waters, as you have, some of us here have known for years. It reminded me the other day when he was on this show that I knew him when he was traffic homicide. So that's going back 20 years. And his administrators, I've known all of them mainly from their homicide days when they would speak to us at scenes. So they're known entities to me, and I agree with Ken that we are seeing more video releases. There's a rule now that came up during Williams that body cams have to be released within 30 days. So we're seeing those. Citizens out there who have been on this show want to see more. They want to see a civilian review board that we used to have access as civilians to the internal discussion when the officers would come up for their disciplinary discussion. We don't have that anymore, but we do eventually see a video edited of it. So the question now is other cities, other places, these things happen, and immediately the community goes from vocal to sometimes very active. What do you think is going to happen in the city as a result, or have we seen the comment that we're going to see from the groups, the neighborhood and the community groups that wish to speak?
That's a very good question, Dan. I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know, but I think you will continue to hear some in the community be very outspoken, demanding more transparency, demanding that greater accountability. And I think you'll see the sheriff pushing back and saying, how about you coming to the table? How about you, instead of criticizing, become a part of the solution? How can we solve this? I honestly believe that he is on a path to try and continue to build trust between law enforcement and the community. And he stated it, I believe it, and I've seen a demonstration of it. Now, trust is an effort, and it takes two sides, sometimes three, to come to the table and reach some sort of mutual agreement of understanding. And I think that he will continue the effort in that area.
What about you, Randy? I mean, you've been there. You've sat through all of the public comment periods where we've had
Yes.
many, many conversations. You were there the night that the late, great Ben Fraser was
Right.
speaking out and got let out.
I really believe, like Ken said, it's all about trust. And this is where that community policing is so important in my mind, because when you don't have a relationship with your community, it's really hard to build trust. And so I do believe that TK Waters is doing everything in his power to rebuild that trust. I mean, with this transparency, and, again, we haven't seen the type of video, body cam video release that we just recently saw. I think it should be even further released just so that it puts it to rest. But I also believe that they knew this individual. This individual was very well known to the police. He has a record, and we can't deny that. I mean, there's a relationship that existed previously before this event occurred that
And
wasn't a positive
parole
relationship.
violation out of Tallahassee
Right.
for a charge that was downgraded at
Correct.
some point. Yes.
It was a charge of murder.
Yes.
I mean, so it's not a small charge. It was a large charge. So I think we need to keep that in mind as being, these police are also at risk. Keep that in mind. So when these things go down, they're doing their best to not only stay safe themselves, but to apprehend these individuals in a way that in a reasonable fashion as best they can.
I mean, we talk about those three officers. One of those officers has a previous relationship with the attorney for the Woods family because he is the officer who shot Jamie Johnson back in 2019 during a traffic stop and shot him fatally. And the same attorney, Mr. Fields, filed a federal lawsuit against from the family against the police department and that officer. And the one statement when the sheriff was asked this week, are those officers back on duty? He said, yes, and they are, and rightly so. So right now, there may be an internal investigation at some point. There is not. But how true? There are multiple officers out there who have probably generated some serious anger in the community, and their names are on their cars. Their names are on their uniforms. If they run into the wrong person, then there could be some confrontation there or some community anger, and that's concerning to me.
Yeah.
And Kaz, what do you think? I mean, we're in the same newsroom now, and we have to cover this. I shouldn't say have to. We are covering this.
I keep going back to what you both said about trust, and because I have very limited experience here in Jacksonville, I'm kind of curious if you know, Sheriff Waters, are those decisions that he has made on transparency, on releasing body cam, is that policy that he has created for like the next sheriffs down the road, or is that something that he is just deciding to do on his own?
I think it's
I don't know
policy,
the
but the
answer.
reality is that the next guy who gets elected can always change policy.
Yeah.
This has been a concerted effort just on my reporting days that began with very slowly with Mike Williams, Melissa Nelson, and then Mayor Lenny Curry, and it's evolved to a different level, to where I think it's even more transparent than it's ever been. Is it policy? I believe it to be so, and I think that he is fully understanding of where the community stands and how the community feels about a protracted relationship with law enforcement. Now, the lack of trust didn't just occur overnight. There's a long history, and so to build that trust is probably not going to be an overnight effort either. And so I believe that it's going to really mean bringing folks to the table and actually having some hard conversations where feelings are going to be hurt. But in the end, there'll be some amicable resolution that's something we can live with. Not everyone is going to walk away feeling victorious, if you will.
A.G. Gankarski joins us, and one final word, A.G., anything on the Woods shooting and the aftermath from a week ago?
It just seems like yet another incident in this ongoing fractious relationship between JSO and the people they serve. I mean, we've talked time and time again on this program about trust issues, about community involvement and all these things. And TK Waters has a lot of work ahead of him to resolve what seems to be an institutional problem in the sheriff's office.
Okay. Don't forget, you're listening to First Coast Connect's Friday Media Roundtable. I'm Dan Scanlon, and you can give us a tweet at FCC On Air. You can email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org, or give us a yell, First Coast Connect's Facebook page. Let's move on to a topic near and dear to some of us. If you've been living here for a long time, Regency Square was once the place to go, the place to meet friends, go shopping, and even have a little food and drink. And in recent years, it has gone downhill. Now we get news this week that Regency Realty, a partnership of Mason Asset Management and Namdar Realty Group, LLC, have purchased Regency Square, had purchased it in 2014 for $13 million, and they've confirmed they're now selling the structure. And along with that, Councilman Ken Amaro here has been griping about the condition of it. So, Ken, let's just talk about how you fit into this picture, and then any guesses from the table as to what happens next.
Very good question. When I came into office, all during the process, the question was asked, what are you doing about Regency Square? What's going to happen with Regency Square? And as a resident of the Arlington community, I've asked the question myself. This, unfortunately, it's been a nightmare. This company in 2014 took over what was then a very viable product and has essentially turned it into an eyesore. There's been no investment into the property. These guys have behaved like real estate vampires. All they've done is suck the revenue stream out of the building and not put anything back in.
Tell us how you really feel, Ken.
But it's a shame because that is such an ideal location because of the crossroads of Monument Road and Atlantic Boulevard. That's one of those pieces of real estates that anyone would like to have because of the commercial potential that's there. And as you said a second ago, when Regency Square was built, it was the gem of shopping centers.
El Primo location.
Throughout the
confluence
Southeast,
of major
not just in
roads coming
Jacksonville.
off the bridge.
Precisely.
It was the place to go.
It was the St. John's Town Center of the day.
Yeah.
Well, it was the only shopping center at the time before.
And then
the
Avenues
came
came along.
And then the Avenues was even seen as a threat. And I even believe Simon owned it at one point.
Yeah.
And they really worked hard. The sheriff's office put a substation in there. They were really putting some money into it. And then now no air conditioning. Restaurants have pulled out. The food court is empty. There's no anchor stores per se. And Bath and Body Works is looking to move.
Yeah. And Lenscrafters, which I've patronized over the years, that was one of their high revenue locations. And but this summer with the sweltering heat, if you went in that so-called mall, there was no AC working. It was not a very good environment for anyone. And I last time I was in there, you're navigating these 40-gallon buckets that have like police yellow tape cordon them off, and you're walking around, and the roof is exposed. And I remember passing there's a dentist office adjacent to the Lenscrafters, and you smell mildew and mold as you're walking through the corridors. And so it hasn't been a good mix for anyone for a few years now. And so a few weeks ago, our office reached out to State Senator Clay Yarborough, as well as Tom Register at Municipal Code Enforcement, and say, hey, guys, need your help. Can we bring a hammer on these guys? and next thing I get reports that they're selling the place. Unfortunately, there's still a few vendors there. There's a pending lawsuit with the Impact Church. I'm not sure the lawsuit has been resolved, but they had to sue this company because they failed to fulfill their end, even though the church had acquired that portion of the property. Some of the other entrepreneurs who are there are now concerned as to whether or not this is a farce or it's legit. Are they just saying they're selling, they have a contract, or just to, keep everyone
to take the heat off,
or is it legit? And my advice to them was very simple and nothing, no great wisdom except to say wait and see, and if there is an actual transaction, it'll show up in court documents within the next 30 days.
Randy, what do you think?
Well, this used to be my line of business, so I actually worked for Regency way back in the day. So a couple of things come to mind. Number one, they paid $13 million for the shopping center back in 2014, and they sold the theater and made 20. They doubled. They sold the theater for $26 million, I believe. So they more than made up for what they paid for the entire property, and then they sold bulk property to the Impact Church for another $6 million, I believe. So they've, as Ken so rightly said, they got their they have more than doubled their investment. I can't believe that these leases, that they're not in default in their leases with the various tenants. I mean, you have to provide a certain level of service as a landlord. The other thing I would do, Ken, if I were you, is I would code enforce them. I would bring out the code. I would tag them with as many penalties as possible. Because
that's in the works.
Okay, good. Because that would be my next move. And so if they do, they're going to feel the pain when they sell it, because there'll be these penalties that are going to be attached. So that's what I would do. But malls in general right now are they kind of, or you're not going to see those in the future. So what I'm seeing is malls need to be redeveloped. So what I hope happens is they really are selling it to a developer who can then put like a multi-use in. So I could see apartments and similar kind of what is done at St. John's Town Center. I think if you did something similar to that in that location, it would be very successful.
So AG, you've been around a while. What are your thoughts on the future, or maybe what the future should be for Regency Square?
Yeah, I mean, Regency was a great concept 50 years ago. I mean, that's why it was built. It was a way to move business away from downtown to basically create a regional hub for shopping and entertainment and so on. And it served that way for a number of decades. If I look at that space, I mean, I don't think it has a problem that a bulldozer could solve. I mean, the mall flat out needs to come down. It's just, I think the rehab and the the refurbishment would cost I can't imagine how much, but really it needs a new vision. I mean, I think kind of mixed use, like Randy's saying, apartments and actual shopping would actually work. I mean, we see this in other cities. Why don't we see this here? Perhaps a high rise or something. I mean, we've got an affordable housing crisis in the city. Yeah, money is more expensive right now with interest rates doing what they're doing and so on. But, Jacksonville could use new housing in that area. And I don't know if there's a need for a 200-store, 130-store, whatever it would be, retail footprint anymore. I don't think there's the vendors for it. I don't think people are actually going to those kind of stores. So whoever buys this structure, and whether this current sale or not is actually going through, somebody is going to have to. They need to look at what works in other cities, and if it's done right, it could be a vehicle for economic development for Arlington itself.
Right.
It could. Yeah.
That's a gateway to Arlington. Town and Country Shopping Center, under its new owners, is being massively renovated. Beautiful mural there. The The old motel hotel next door is gone, so that's ripe for development. But when you get into the convergence of Arlington Expressway and Atlantic Boulevard, there should be a real gateway presence there, and not just a movie theater. Is because I've been here for 40 years. I can remember many wonderful shopping exhibits. Heck, we got a TV. We got a living room set. I used to get all my clothes at Regency. My wife and I would go to that movie theater. Annie Teague's restaurant at one end was a place to go when I was a single person. There's nothing there per se, and the other shopping centers nearby are somewhat active, but there's nothing really there. But that used to be a huge nexus. Now the town center is probably the closest to a nexus, as we've talked about, of business and retail and residential. Kaz, you're new to this neck of the woods.
I gotta admit, I have never been to Regency
Shame
Mall,
on you.
and your testimonial, Ken, does not make me want to go not even remotely. But I look at town center, and that place is just hopping. But
Right.
something like that, an overhaul like that, is going to take an investment, and it just really depends on who bought this property as to whether they're going to make a significant investment like that.
There's an interesting structure to the Regency Square Mall, and that is multiple property owners. Sears owns Sears, and the surrounding, I think it's 18 acres or something. J.C. Penney owns the other portion of it. The church has acquired that piece in the middle, and on the backside, freestanding is Dillard's property. So whoever buys whatever they're buying is just really the corridors on the inside, which is still a lot of acreage, good property for perhaps mixed use. Not too long I was in the Atlanta area, and obviously I think Dan or AG used an expression earlier. It has to be reimagined. I was in the Atlanta area and went to a Ponce Market, which if you've never been there, that used to be an old Sears, and they've reimagined it, took the bones of it, and it's retail and restaurants and everything else, and there's a driving traffic that goes there all the time, and when you get there, you're struggling to find parking places, and so it has to be reimagined, perhaps mixed use, for whomever acquires the property, and they have to see themselves not in 5 years or 10 years, but in 30 years, what will be standing here. And yes, it's going to take some significant capital investment, but it can be done. I mean, these kind of developments are done all day long with the right partners, people who have vision and who have resources to accomplish it. So
Let's move on to something that Casimira here has been working on for quite a while, and it's evictions in Duval County. They're on the rise, exceeding pre-pandemic rates. Over 14,000 eviction notices were filed in 2022. That number expected to increase in 2023. So, Kaz, you've been covering the story. You've already got part one of a planned series out there for Jacksonville today. Just give us the nuts and bolts, first of all, how bad it is out there and who's getting evicted.
So basically, affordable housing is an issue here in Jacksonville, as it is across the state and across the country. And so that kind of made me curious about what the numbers were like in Duval County. As I go through the court system, 14,000 in 1 year. Now, those are eviction filings. That doesn't necessarily mean that the people that had evictions filed against them are actually evicted, but the vast majority are. And they're not that 14,000 number. That's not at the level that it was, say, back in 2007 or 2008 when the bottom dropped out of the housing market. So it's not quite that high, but it's still high, and they're on track to surpass that number this year. When I talked to the lady that I spoke to about her eviction, and other people that I spoke to for this story. Some folks feel uncomfortable coming forward. This is an embarrassment.
Mhm.
You know, it goes to the heart of you being able to take care of your family. You know, but when Nikki spoke to me, the fact that she didn't really have a very good understanding of how to tackle this when it was given to her. I mean, the pages or the eviction notice just made her freeze. And that's something that I've seen in other people that I've spoken to. So hopefully, in the next story, I'm going to try to help people figure out what steps they can take, and what steps they are limited with.
So why? Why are these
Why?
people getting evicted? Is it post-pandemic and grace periods are over? What?
A lot of it is because the pandemic moratoriums stopped. People aren't getting federal or state assistance as much as they were before, but also just because you get behind, sometimes several $1,000s behind in a payment, and the bill comes due.
Well,
Hard to keep up.
I look forward to reading more of this. Any thoughts from our...
One of the things that you said that I've experienced firsthand is that when people are served, they freeze. They don't know how to respond.
Yeah.
And the reality is that it's easy to get an eviction judgment for non-payment of rent and for not showing up in the courts to give reason as to why you hadn't paid the rent. And so we've had organizations like JAILA and Three Rivers to be a voice for some of these individuals. But again, they don't know how to turn to some of these agencies to say, hey, I need help.
Right.
Now, this year, the city council president, Ron Salem, initiated an effort to deal with just a portion of this. And it's really a drop in the bucket. He allocated $500,000. The mayor's matching $500,000, so they're creating a trust fund of sorts of $1 million to be accessed through various nonprofits for those who are at the verge. They're not there yet, but they're at the verge. They can apply for assistance to have their rents paid so that they don't become homeless. Because the reality is, eviction is also contributing to our homeless situation, because if they didn't have the money to pay the rent, where do they have money to go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Hey, AG, any state remedies that you might be aware of out of Tallahassee?
I don't think so. I don't. The DeSantis administration, the Scott administration before it, they haven't exactly been concerned with renters' rights. And in fact, I believe there was legislation this session that scotch things like renters' bills of rights, like you see in Orlando and places like that. You're just going to see rents go up at least through this part of the economic cycle. Then you'll see a slight deflation, but it's a really tough time to be a renter. The landlords have all the leverage, and fees get added, things like that. And, basically it's easy to get caught up for people who are renting, who are income insecure. Long story short, I'm not expecting a lot from the state. This is one that's got to work itself out through the economic cycle.
Now, finally, let's talk about something that does have a Florida connection. I'm sure you've all heard by now, if you listen to NPR, that on Tuesday, Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy was ousted, first time in history, in his role as the Speaker on a 2016 to 2010 vote. 8 Republicans joined Democrats in removing McCarthy from that top leadership position. And Florida Representative, and I'll probably mispronounce the last name, Matt Gaetz was the Republican leading the charge. Thank you, AG. So, who is Matt Gaetz?
Well, he's a congressman from the Panhandle. He was a state representative for many years before he went to the Congress. His father was senator in the state of Florida, Don Gaetz. So he comes from a very political family. He's a very very smart individual, but he may be smarter than he should be, because he'll he plays this stuff out because so he can get the clicks and the donations and the. I'm not sure it's all for the betterment of America. And
now we are 35 days away from yet another deadline, something like that, for another shutdown.
Right.
So, AG, your thoughts? I mean, you're the political guy here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Matt Gaetz made a strong play, actually. I mean, he sensed that Kevin McCarthy was vulnerable. There obviously wasn't much of a margin for error for McCarthy. And, he organized the coup. Is it going to hurt him down the road? I expect him to see a primary in 2024. People keep asking me if he's running for governor. Gaetz is saying he's not running for governor. But, this is a move that did not surprise me. I mean, Gaetz was not happy with McCarthy as speaker from the get-go. And the problem with the GOP caucus in the House, besides the fact they've got a very slender majority, is you've got that Freedom Caucus wing represented by Jim Jordan in this, speaker race that's emerging now. But I'm curious to see how the House actually resolves its leadership issue, given the 35 days they have to actually, come up with a solution so the government doesn't shut down.
We've got two people who are in the running, and then I hear Donald Trump's coming to visit next week.
Well, I was shocked to find out that the speaker does not have to be a member of Congress. It could be so that the thought was they could bring Donald Trump in, but unfortunately for Donald, the GOP has a rule that you can't be indicted with the possibility of being incarcerated for more than 2 years. So that barred him from speaker. Yeah, it's very interesting. This is kind of the Donald Trump side of the House, really, in my opinion. I don't know if AG believes that.
Well, we got 30 seconds till we go to lightning round.
Very quickly, the speaker was on thin ice from the start. When you get elected by 15 ballots, you're on thin ice, and we see that because he changed the rules so he can get the votes to become Speaker of the House, and they actually used the change that he manifested against him, and so he's out of office.
We shall see in 35 days. Maybe Mr. McCarthy will be sitting back and going, I told you so. All right, guys, it's that time of Friday we look forward to. It's time for our lightning round. Each participant. What else is on your radar, Ken?
Right now, Regency Square is at the forefront of my agenda right now, trying to do something there. Hopefully, the sale actually goes through, and this is not a ruse as some of the entrepreneurs fear, and that within the next 30, 40 days, we can see something positive there.
Well, for me, there's a lot of car shows on a day tomorrow that's going to be a nice sunny day, and I'm going to cruise into the creek down in Orangedale, 200, 300 cars underneath the trees. I'm going to have a lot of fun looking at classics and some food trucks, and I'm out in nature with a beautiful creek nearby.
Thanks, Dan. As you know, yesterday you and I were both at the Jacksonville Historic Society where they did the opening of the new History Museum. They're going to focus on the history of music along with other areas of Jacksonville's history. If you are interested in the music history of Jacksonville, which is amazing, please donate. They could really use your help.
And Kaz, what's on your radar?
I've been trying to immerse myself in the musical scene recently in Jacksonville and the greater North.
Hungarian Pen, dedicated to agriculture and culinary endeavors, offering field-to-fork dining and outdoor experiences on over 300 acres. Sip, dine, explore. Information at congaree&pen.com. Amelia Island presents the Amelia Island Cookout, October 20th to 22nd at the Ritz-Carlton Amelia Island, with multi-course meals from master chefs, wine pairing dinners, a beachfront cookout, and more. Info at ameliaislandcookout.com.
Wayne Hogan of the Terrell Hogan Personal Injury and Wrongful Death Law Firm. When people are hurt through no fault of their own, answering who, what, when, where, why, and how is critical to proving the truth. More at terrellhogan.com.
Jamie presents Chicago post-punk trio Dead at Jackrabbits on Friday, October 13th. Tickets and more information at jacksmusic.org/events.
Hey, welcome back. The Jacksonville Music Experience team covers, as you should know, all the latest music news from artists far and wide, adding all the best cuts from national, international, even local artists in rotation on the independent 89.9 HD4. That's WJCT's new music discovery station. Even I listen to it at my age. So WJCT Arts and Culture editor Matt Shaw is here to share 3 new songs that have been reviewed on jacksmusic.org and added to rotation on the independent. So it's our JME DJ sessions. Matt?
What's up, man? You are an unflappable host. Inflappable? Unflappable.
Yeah, my
host.
laptop is unflappable. It's in the ER right now. That's how I walked in.
Well,
but let's talk music, man.
Yeah. I'm just hoping I can perk your ears with some of the songs I'm going to play for you this morning. First up, a few months ago, I was asked to pick my favorite release by a new artist of 2023 for an episode of NPR Music's All Songs Considered. They ended up picking my submission of an artist called Blonde Shell, but my other favorite artist of 2023 so far is an Iranian-American multidisciplinary artist who goes by Rahil. Rahil's debut solo effort is called Flowers at Your Feet. It's a sunny but complex collection of pop music, spanning a range of influences. She worked with 90s experimental icon Beck on this record, and a song is from that record called Fables, which features Beck. Sounds like it could have been an Odelay B-side, so we're going to listen to Fables and by Beck and Rahil first.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So Rahil might be known to some people who are familiar with new music coming out of New York. She was in a band called Habibi, which was a garage punk band out of New York City, which was pretty popular before going solo. So we're gonna move from New York City to the First Coast here, a Jacksonville band called Coy Boy. I want to play a brand new song from them. This is the project of singer and lyricist Courtney Frazier and multi-instrumentalist Elon Maglor. Individually, both artists are working gigging musicians, session musicians for other artists, cover band work, etc. But with Coy Boy, as they told us in their press kit that they sent over, they have an excuse to do whatever the heck they want. And so they have this song called Violets, which they recorded live on the Heartwood Soundstage in Gainesville, just released last week. One of our contributors called it hopelessly romantic indie rock. So here's Jacksonville's own Coy Boy performing Violets.
I love that sound, her voice.
Yeah, so Coy Boy is actually playing this weekend at the Beaches Oktoberfest in Jacksonville Beach. So if you want to check them out live, they'll be there. And finally, from Jacksonville to Puerto Rico, this one is for David Luckin, our station manager. Pachiman is an artist we both love. He's Puerto Rican-born, LA-based, multi-instrumentalist, and master of dub, which is the musical style first popularized in late 60s Jamaica. On a single from a new full-length, he comes from behind the studio console, gets in front of the mic.
Obviously, they've got that beautiful music hall
Yeah,
next
the beer
door.
hall, yeah.
There's a new place down in the Brooklyn area, Burlock and Barrel. They're doing live music now that they've rebuilt their bar. My old editor is playing live music all over the region with his band. It's just amazing how much live music there is, and lovely places. I mean, you're sitting in a don't laugh, a shrimp shack somewhere on a creek somewhere, but you got the great view out there, the great fried shrimp, and a beverage and live music. But this is really good live music.
Yeah, maybe we could get Pachiman to play one of those shrimp shacks for you.
I mean, this is all the stuff that you play. This is all the stuff that is just
Planning, commuter service.